You are listening to Radio Long Island City, recorded at our studios near Hell Gate, 9 kilometers north of the Harbor Hill Moraine. And now, the Observatory. The Observatory, Wednesday the 2nd of April, 2025. It is 13 days after the spring equinox. It is 79 days before the summer solstice. By the French Republican calendar, it is the 13th day of Germinal, the day of the Maury, the Morel. The sun rises today at 6:37 a.m. Solar noon takes place today at 1 p.m. The sun sets today at 7:22 p.m., civil twilight ends at 7:50 p.m., and nautical twilight ends at 8:22 p.m. The length of daytime today is 2 minutes 41 seconds longer than yesterday. The moon is in its waxing crescent phase and is 25% full at midday. The first quarter will arrive on Friday, the 4th of April. These are the predicted tides today for Horns Hook. In the wee hours, high tide, 1:52 a.m., 1 meter 80. In the morning, low tide, 8:09 a.m., -9 centimeters. In the afternoon, high tide, 2:25 p.m., 1 meter 46. In the evening, high tide, 8:17 p.m., 9 centimeters. In our shared realm of plants and animals, in our spring tree watch, all across the neighborhood the cherry trees are coming into blossom. The smallest ones seem to have been the first to flower out. Commemorations. On this day in 1792, Congress passed the Coinage Act, which established the United States Mint in Philadelphia, which was the capital at the time. The first circulating coins produced were 11,000 large copper pennies. They featured a bust of Lady Liberty, who unfortunately had a rather wild hairdo, her locks arrayed behind her as if struck by wind. Her expression also seemed to be rather alarmed. The Mint quickly redesigned the coins in its next issue. On this day in 1865, Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederacy, fled his upstart capital, Richmond, Virginia. The surrender at Appomattox took place a week later on April 9th. The Confederate States of America met their doom. On this day in 1877, the first Easter egg roll was held on the White House lawn. Until then, it had been a tradition to hold the event on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol, but Congress had decided to restrict access. President Rutherford B. Hayes opened the gates of the South Lawn and welcomed all the rollers to his end of Pennsylvania Avenue. Needless to say, it was not used as an event to sell corporate sponsorships. On this day in the same year, 1877, Rosa Matilda Richter, known as Zazelle, was the very first person to perform as a human cannonball. The show took place at the Royal Aquarium in London. She was launched into the air by a cannon using rubber springs. It was designed by the Canadian William Leonard Hunt, known by his stage name, the Great Farini. She later toured with the P.T. Barnum Circus. On this day in 1930, Ras Tafari Makonnen was proclaimed Emperor Haile Selassie of Abyssinia, today referred to as Ethiopia. He went to the League of Nations in 1936 to protest the Italian invasion of his country. After the war, with the Italians defeated, he returned to his country. He is also, of course, a figure of reverence for the Rastafarian movement. On this day in 1972, Charlie Chaplin returned to the United States for the first time since being labeled a communist during the Red Scare in the early 1950s. A reminder of the cyclical political hysteria which has often afflicted our nation. On this day in 1982, the Argentine military junta invaded the British Falkland Islands. Although they succeeded in occupying the islands, they were seen off soon enough, and the junta was itself soon consigned to the dustbin of history. On this day in 1805, Hans Christian Andersen, the beloved author of children's tales, was born. In his story, The Little Mermaid, he wrote this: "But a mermaid has no tears, and therefore she suffers so much more." And that is the Observatory, Wednesday, the 2nd of April, 2025.